Back in 1960, when the whole world was glued to America's Apollo missions, our neighbors were up to some seriously scary experiments on the planet Venus. The Soviet Union, that is the Russians, planned a suicide mission to Venus. After spending billions of dollars and years of hard work, they built a probe that, for the first time in history, would land on another planet and capture its pictures. What Russian probes faced on Venus was a kind of hell that blew the minds of Russian scientists. Today we're going to talk about those missions Russia carried out on Venus. Let's dive into the suicide missions that uncovered the terrifying secrets of Venus. How a tiny camera lens cap ruined years of hard work and billions of dollars for the Russians. What was so special about that place that even with all today's technology, Russia never went back there? Welcome once again to Gents History Videos. Back in the 1960s and 70s, the Cold War was at its peak. It was a race between America and what is now Russia to see who would become the king of space. Both countries wanted to show the world something extraordinary. Their strength and capability could be measured. Music in this race, America put all its effort into the moon. Sure, Russia had already won part of this race by landing their probes on the moon, but American President John F. Kennedy had promised the world that they would land the first human on the moon before the 1970s began. That was truly a huge claim. When the Russians saw that America could really reach the moon, they shifted their target to Venus. Their goal was to prove that if we can go to the moon, then Russia can definitely set foot on hell too. Until now, scientists thought Venus and Earth were pretty much the same. They're neighbors, almost the same size and roughly the same distance from the sun. But there's one big difference you can see from afar. Unlike Earth, Venus is completely covered in clouds, and back then, no one really knew what was hidden beneath those thick clouds. Even for scientists, it was like a secret box. Russia figured that if you can see the moon with a telescope, then if we manage to show the world what's inside Venus, it might be an even bigger achievement than landing on the moon in America. And if we capture oceans, forests, or alien creatures inside those clouds on Venus, it would be a straight-up win for the Russians. Thinking this way, the Russians didn't plan just 1 or 2 missions, but a total of 18 missions to Venus. For this, Russia designed a probe called Venera, which is what they call Venus in Russian. At that time, scientists were sure of one thing. The thick clouds on Venus and its close proximity to the sun meant there was an atmosphere there, but no one had any idea how much thicker it was compared to Earth's. They designed Venera to withstand really high atmospheric pressure. Back then, during the space race, the Russians kept all their experiments secret until they succeeded. Otherwise, they'd have to face the shame of failure. On February 4th, 1961, Russia sent its first probe toward Venus, but it couldn't even get out of Earth's orbit. Following their policy, they didn't tell the world about this failure at all. They just used the excuse of a heavy satellite launch. The Russians also had a policy of making 2 probes for one mission so that if one failed, the other could complete the mission. This time, they made 2 probes, Venera 1 and Venera 2. Their goal was just to do a flyby of Venus, meaning to pass by and collect some data. Venera 1 was launched on February 12, 1961. It was the first probe ever sent toward another planet. But just 7 days after the launch, contact was lost. It broke off from the ground. The result was that this silent probe did pass by Venus at a distance of 100,000 km, but it couldn't send us any data. And even today, it's still wandering somewhere around the sun. And here's the crazy part. As it was falling down to Venus, it kept sending radio signals back to Earth. Russian scientists noticed that while it was descending, something was actually pushing Venera from the side. Because of this movement, there was a slight change in the radio frequency. This frequency shift is called the Doppler effect. By calculating it, they estimated that stormy winds of about 360 km/h exist in Venus's atmosphere. This speed is way higher than even the biggest storms on Earth. The Venera mission was way more advanced than all the previous missions because by then the Russians had figured out exactly what kind of terrifying enemy they were up against. 90 times stronger pressure, 360 km/h winds hotter than a furnace. Venera 8 was equipped with a gamma spectrometer to test the soil there, along with a light sensor. And this time, unlike previous Veneras that landed at night, it was deliberately landed during the day to find out how much light there is on Venus during daytime. The light sensor confirmed that despite thick clouds, there's enough light on Venus's surface to see things clearly. Thanks to the light sensor, they found out that sunlight scatters all around there. Venera 8 spent 60 minutes breathing on the surface of Venus. Back then, with temperatures at 465 degrees C and such pressure, having any machine survive even an hour was nothing short of a miracle. The era from Venera 9 to 12 was both Russia's greatest success and biggest misfortune. These 4 probes had quite different designs. Over 5 tons heavy, with a weird UFO-like lander. In the middle was a round container holding all the delicate electronics, so the heat and pressure wouldn't destroy them right away. At the very bottom, there was a crush ring that would stick itself during landing and act like a shock absorber, and above that, there was an aero brake that looked like an umbrella. These probes also had something everyone was waiting for. Yes, the camera. Each probe had 2 cameras installed to get a 360-degree view of Venus. But at the last moment, something went wrong. After landing, the lens covers didn't open. On Venera 9 and 10, only 1 camera cover opened. Venera 11 and 12 survived for 110 minutes. But bad luck struck when neither of the probes could get their lens caps off. They sent tons of data, but not a single picture. Then, on October 2, 1975, Venera 9 managed to send the very first photo of Venus, even if it was just through 1 lens. It was a historic moment. Human-made machines had sent images from another planet. The world saw that Venus wasn't some sandy desert, but a rocky, terrifying landscape scattered with sharp stone. Next up were Venera 13 and 14, marking the golden era of the Soviet Union, or Russia's prime time in space exploration. These missions showed the world things that humans had never seen before. But there was a really weird mistake in it, one that still stands out in space history. These probes didn't just have cameras, they also had a microphone. After landing, when Venera 13's microphone was switched on Venus's surface, some really strange sounds were heard. The first time in history, Venera 13 recorded the sounds of wind and thunder from another planet. It also had a drill and a seismometer. The soil samples there were taken to find out it was well known that Venus also experiences earthquakes. Venera 13 sent the first color pictures of Venus. From these photos, we now know that Venus's sky is orange and the ground is brownish. But what happened with Venera 14 will blow your mind. It had a spring-loaded arm that upon landing was supposed to hit the ground hard and figure out how solid Venus's soil was. But as the camera's landscape cover fell, it unfortunately landed right where that test arm was supposed to hit. As a result, the instrument measuring the soil's hardness, instead of checking properly, they just tested the tightness of their own camera's lens cap. Because of that tiny cap, millions of dollars worth of hard work went down the drain. Moving on, in Venera 15 and 16, Russia completely changed the probe strategy. Earlier, the probes were supposed to land on the surface, but with Venera 15 and 16, they orbited Venus for 8 months. These probes had SAR, which is synthetic aperture radar, because Venus's clouds are so thick that no camera can take pictures of the planet. Using SAR, they mapped the surface of Venus for the entire 8 months.